Welcome to the Scandinavian Mind podcast, our weekly show about how technology is changing the creative industries. Today on the program, how the Nordics are leading in textile innovations. We are revisiting a talk we hosted at CIFF, Copenhagen International Fashion Fairs, earlier this year. The talk was part of our transformation series, where we explore technological breakthroughs in fashion. In this talk, we cover the potential of new recycling methods, why talking about fibres is all the rage for fashion companies, how Marimekko, Adidas and H&M are investing in new methods, what new directives from the EU will mean for the fashion industry, and why Finland is putting so much effort into these technologies. Speakers were Marika Ollaranta, Head of Decarbonization Industries at Business Finland, Jarkko Havas, Head of Concept at Spinnova, and Olli Kähkönen, co-founder and CEO of Bioproducts Group. My name is Konrad Olsson. I'm the editor-in-chief and founder of Scandinavian Mind, and the reason we're publishing this conversation now is on the occasion of our upcoming Transformation Conference, a twin event taking place in Helsinki and Stockholm during summer of 2023. The aim is to empower innovation through knowledge sharing and network opportunities between tech companies, fashion brands, and investors. The first edition of Transformation Conference takes place in Helsinki soon on May 25th, about 3 weeks from now. If you want to know more and visit that conference, go to scandinavianmind.com/transconf and you can sign up there. And don't forget to order your copy of our lovely new print magazine, Scandinavian Mind Issue 4. Go to scandinavianmind.com and a link will take you to our distribution partner, Paper Cut. All right, that was it. Here now, my conversation with Marika Ollaranta, Jarkko Havas, and Olli Kähkönen from Copenhagen earlier this year. Enjoy. This is a super fascinating topic, and we at Scandinavian Mind have been covering this quite extensively. I want to start with you, Jarkko, because I think you really have spearheaded this with Spinnova, and you also have done some really high-level collaborations with brands such as Adidas and H&M Group and Bestseller and so forth. Can you just give a little introduction to Spinnova for those who don't know your technology since before?
Sure, yes, thank you. And it's great that we have actually 3 Finnish organizations representing Nordics here, so we'll do our best. But yeah, so Spinnova is in its heart a technology company. We have, or our co-founder and others have founded and patented a technology to make fiber in a completely new way. And now making that fiber is an extension of that, so we are a technology and a fiber company. And also are working in the supply chain with our brand partners to make fabrics together with those brands. So that's what Spinnova does. And it's all about sustainability. It's about making fiber in a way that has a much smaller footprint than conventional fibers in many cases. And in that way, we are here to help fashion brands, but also companies in other industries that use fiber to lower their impact and to create even positive impact in the world around them, environmentally speaking and beyond.
And from a fashion perspective, can you explain a little bit about how this becomes fashion? How does your product end up in a piece of fabric or a piece of...
You put it very well. So fibers are the things that make yarn that you then weave or knit into fabrics and then make into garments. So that's how it happens, but it's not that simple. Many brands don't go beyond procuring garments, maybe fabrics in some cases, but seldomly beyond that. And therefore we're just finding out, even with these big companies, new ways of working together, how to get that fiber all the way to the end user in a new way, because these brands are looking for these technological solutions to lower their footprint, for example, having a fiber that has lower CO2 footprint, but don't know how to get that all the way to garment as they haven't done that before. Yeah. So it's new territory for everybody.
And you've done collaborations with, as I mentioned, Marimekko, Adidas, H&M and others. I'm sure there must be a learning curve for these companies to understand some of these technologies. Can you talk a little bit about how you work there?
Yeah, it is a long learning curve. Indeed, just the way we work together is something new. It's about learning expectations. It's about meeting future regulatory requirements in terms of your CO2 footprint, for example. And it's about learning how to make a new fiber into a ready-made garment. And it's taken some time. I mean, some of our longest lasting partners like Adidas and Marimekko, we've worked years with them. And only last year launched really the first commercial products, although there have been some trials with Marimekko, for example, earlier on.
Right. Olli, I'm going to move over to you. You're a bit newer on the market, let's say. Can you describe the Nordic Bioproducts Group and the work that you do to the audience?
Yes, we are Aalto University, Spinnova Aalto University is one of the leading universities in the world when it comes to the cellulosic materials and research and development of cellulosic materials. If I would say that we are, let's say, a powerhouse of innovations and R&D, also we have developed a methodology to produce sustainable textile fibers out of cellulosic materials. And one of the let's say the Nordic companies that has come up with a similar kind of technologies, but I think we all are producing a bit different kind of fibers there. So also the end products do feel a little bit different. There's a market, from my point of view, there's a tons of market there. There's a huge need, and we are all needed, I suppose. Also us, but being the, let's say, the youngest one as a company in this one, so it's thrilling to be involved here. And thank you for the invitation for this one as well, the talks. I think there's a tons of things to do still. You know, Spinnova is kind of where the heading, the number one at the moment there. All the other ones that we have still, I think, years to be in the same situation. But we're coming here, we're supporting each other. So I think we are not competing at all. We're just supporting each other.
We're going to talk a little bit about collaboration later. I'm glad you brought that up. But I want to understand a little bit more about your technology. Yeah. And don't be scared to be too technical.
Yeah, well, okay, and let's do not go too deep in chemistry or so. But it's kind of how we approach this. That we understood that in a bigger concept of sustainability and how the textile industry also should become more sustainable. Consumers wants to have it more sustainable products. So we first tackled the viscose as such, that knowing that viscose from the man-made cellulosic fibers as a production of it is not very at all, I would say, sustainable. We brought there an alternative way to produce viscose, kind of a viscose fiber similar but sustainably, without using toxic chemicals. So that was the biggest thing there. And also what comes to the feedstock, so that normally you're making viscose from a dissolving pulp, which is one sort of a pulp which is a very, let's say, also one could say that it's not the most sustainable pulp. So we thought that what if we could actually start using paper pulp, which is more sustainable material than dissolving pulp, and we took it from there, took our technology, which was invented already over 10 years ago in Aalto University, further developed that one and found out to spin fibers without using toxic chemicals. So that's our technology in a short.
Right. And when we spoke earlier, you mentioned something, maybe a little bit offhand, it's not really there yet, but you mentioned something that was really interesting, the potential of recycling mixed materials. That's the huge issue with sustainability is that we have cotton and polyester materials.
Exactly, and I think, that not only the virgin fibers that we are using, they are needed in textile production of textiles, but also we need to find the solutions to somehow to bring all this textile waste back in life and to utilize the huge waste of textile, the huge piles of textile waste that we have there. With our technology, we found out accidentally, again, these big innovations quite often happens also, not only macaroni this happens. We didn't understand that even this is possible, but we understood that with our technology we can actually separate cotton and polyester from each other. So
Right.
polycotton waste streams, which is the biggest problem at the moment. So we could separate them, extract them, and then have a possibility to take in both extractions, like the cellulose and the polyester, towards to be utilized
Wow.
again.
Well, if you succeed, I think that will be a huge breakthrough.
I hope so too. Yeah.
Keep working on that.
Thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit more about recycling in a moment, but I want to just back up a little bit and maybe explain to the audience and people listening, why is this happening in the Nordics right now? Because what we realized, we published a report in our last issue of, we were able to list 10 or 15 companies coming out of Sweden and Finland that are working on this. Marika, you support many of these companies in your work with Business Finland. Can you explain a little bit why is this happening right now in Finland? Maybe specifically Finland from your perspective.
Mainly because of our knowledge on the wood itself, and as a Finland, I can speak behalf of the Finland. So we haven't had any gold or oil or anything else. The only thing that we have had as a raw material have been the wood, and we've been investigating, like for example, for Spinnova, we funded the first projects like over a decade ago. That what you can actually make out of the wood. Meaning that there's something more high value products that actually the paper products. So that is basically the reasoning at the moment.
Wonderful. And how do Business Finland work with supporting these brands? Can you talk a little bit about the green projects that you have?
We fund these research projects that the companies do, and also we fund the universities when they work together with the companies. And when there is something to show and to looking for the pilots, for example, in these cases with the brands, so then we also make them easier to connect with the brands, find them like a connections. Now in the Nordics, because in Finland we don't have this textile brands in Finland, so we would like to really highly cooperate with the Swedish and the Danish fashion brands and the textile industry. So then we find those connections and ease the making those matches.
Right.
And also the funding is important, and that is something that we've been able to attract also the investors in Finland to invest in these in innovation companies for their factories. Yeah.
Jarkko, do you agree that it's our heritage with our big forests in the north? Is that why we are so focused on this right now?
It's a big factor.
Yeah.
A lot of the expertise in these organizations, including Spinnova, comes from that field.
Yeah.
And trying to find ways to, keep the forestry industry alive. But as Olli mentioned, it's not just wood as raw material anymore. It's about recycling textiles. And so there is something else there as well. And I think it's just now this whole mechanism of having these companies, if they come from forestry industry at first, that's great. But now it's something more.
Yeah.
And I think Nordics is being increasingly profiled as innovative space or region for fibers and yarns and textiles, because of these companies and many others.
Yeah.
And that's great. And that's also why, as Olli said, we're not competitors. We are all kind of building this region to what it is now and in the future together.
I think it's worth just taking a moment to reflect on the recycling thing and maybe explain it for people who don't know where we are. Olli, maybe you can take over. We are in a situation where there's new legislation coming from EU, or at least directives. I believe Finland has moved forward a bit further on this, and you started already this year on recycling textiles?
2 years ahead, 2023 now, yeah.
So what is happening here? We need to recycle textiles, basically.
Yeah, we need recycled textiles, but of course, where to get it, that we have a pre-consumer coming, the waste that is coming from the production of textile garments and so on. Then we have a post-consumer waste. And now in Finland they have started already this collection of collecting this one from the how would I say, households and so on.
Right.
Then they're sorting they've been testing this already a few years, so there's already a system going on now. I think it's a more official, and I think Finland is, as being the first one, is a laboratory for now for this whole value chain, how to actually make it, because it's referring what Jarkko said that it's not that simple, and there's a lot of phases that needs to be done, not only in production of these textile fibers, but when we're talking about textile recycling, where to get them, how to collect them, how to sort them, how to pre-treat them, how to then mechanically process them, how to chemically process them before they are actually, for example, Spinnova could start making their fiber out of it.
Right.
It's a long journey there. But now Finland is starting this. EU is coming 25, right? That it's a whole EU pan system. We do need them as well. This feedstock, this textile waste as well. We need to find solutions to sustainably manage them and find sustainable methodologies to bring them back in life and back in circulation.
Yes. I don't think people understand. I mean, first, you point out very well, this is a very complex issue. Yeah. It's a big issue though, because the latest number I saw was that we recycle only about 1% of all textiles. Yeah. It's a staggering low number. So we need this, and to implement these kind of innovations where we take care of the textile, we first have to have the textiles. Yeah. How do you see this will change for the actual consumer, the common man, so to speak? Today in Stockholm, if we go down in our garbage rooms, we have like bins for batteries and glass and so forth. Will there be a textile bin in every house, do you think?
I think that's what's happening in Finland, step by step, gradually as well. There will be, right? Yeah. Let's see how it really works and how they will be collected. I think here you already have in shopping centers and so on, you have these pins where you actually can put them, and then they are taken further from there. And upcycling is needed as well. I think the recycling is not the only thing that we really need. We need to also thinking about the consumption of the textiles and so on, so that are maybe using less, maybe making more durable materials and so on. So everything is needed there.
Yeah, that's a big issue. Yeah. It's almost like a different session that you can deal with now. We mentioned EU. Jarkko, I know you have spent some time trying to understand some of the legislations that are coming out of the EU in the next years, not only with regards to recycling. What do you think fashion brands has to look out for when it comes to the directives from EU?
Yeah, it is. That also is a surprisingly complex area.
Yeah.
There are many pieces like the circular economy action plan, then you have the sustainable textile strategy, and Marika probably knows 5 or 6 others that are interlinked and sort of are putting the momentum to the same direction, but a lot about green claims and how to substantiate that. It's a lot about recycled content and recyclability, and it's about making indeed products more durable. So that's going to impact the way that brands need to design clothes, select materials, what trims do you put, what material are those trims, how easy it is to recycle the cloth if you take the trims out. All of these things will come much more top of mind for designers. So I think it's quite fundamental actually, and it's quite soon. In this decade, all of that will happen.
It's very soon. The latest numbers or dates I heard was for the bigger companies. Some of this will come into effect 2024 already, but for more medium-sized companies, probably similar to those exhibiting here, it's 2026. But that's also very soon. And depending on how aggressive EU will be, this will pose a completely new situation for many of these fashion brands. And I don't think many of them are prepared. Let's talk about collaboration, because in order to achieve any type of change, we need a much bigger cross-industry collaboration, and that's really why we try to have these talks from Scandinavian Mind perspective. Marika, from your perspective, how would you like to? What do you think needs to happen, and what role do you think you can play at Business Finland?
so far what I have discussed with the people in the industry, so this kind of like a knowledge sharing is definitely needed because the fashion brands don't necessarily know what is available and this who then represents the technology. We don't have that transparency what is happening in the value chains and what those value chains are and where the decisions are made and where the pilots are made. So, and also that what kind of like even opportunities there are. So that is a bit of vague because there's a lot of opportunities already that we can sort of like start to pilot. So knowledge share is something that we definitely need to have in a place and with the discussions. But then also we have now these technologies coming on and where to pilot, how to scale them up together. So also sharing the cost, sharing the knowledge again. Is there something that when she is learning something with the huge textile brands, so is that something that can be transparently shared with other companies in order to speed up this green transition? Because we definitely are in a hurry because if you think about these EU regulations, I don't know if there is enough sort of like a production lines to recycle all these items that we are able to implement those regulations and we have something to be sell.
Olli, any thoughts here on how do you think the industries need to collaborate more?
Well, once again, that be an open mind and to be ready to work together. As I was mentioning, as we discussed here, that we shouldn't feel each other as a competitors, but working in the same field and trying to support each other.
Right.
There's need is huge, right? The demand is such huge there, and I think no one is going to be able to do it by themselves. So only one entity or two entities. I think it needs the whole Scandinavian, the whole Nordic should be proud of this one. Of course, number one, that what we are doing here, what we have achieved here, if you think about globally, that what Nordics is representing, what comes to the novel textile innovation. So I would say 99% is coming from here. So more collaboration here with technology providers, industries, feedstock, brands, so on. Finland is, we are known to have a long history in cellulosic materials and engineering world. You Swedes the same, but you also taught us how to dress and so on, if I would say so. So we need each other as well, and the Danes are even, more closer to Europe and so also together.
Yeah. So let's talk about scale because the change of fashion industry won't happen unless we have significant scale. I was at the inauguration of one of your colleagues, Renewcell, had a new factory opening in Sundsvall, north of Sweden, late last year. They're recycling cotton, and they said they can only service about 10% of the demand from the fashion industry with their current factory. Wow. Jarkko, from your end on Spinnova, how do you see your roadmap in terms of scaling up what you're doing?
Yeah, it is a tough question, especially in this economic environment. Factories tend to cost a lot and take time to build. Renewcell have done extremely well getting the right partners along, committed partners with multi-year kind of contracts to buy their material.
Well, they're funded partly by H&M, so I think they have a good relation there.
Way there, sure, but others as well.
Yeah.
But that's really how it is. To build a factory, you need financing, and to get financing, you need de-risking, and that usually means long contracts.
Yeah.
And when fashion brands design season to season, many seasons a year, and look ahead perhaps a year, and we need to look ahead a decade, bridging that gap to work with partners that share the same ambition and vision and share the same commitment to that direction is really something that is important, I think, for all of these new innovations, including us.
We're unfortunately coming up on the end of this session. There's much more to cover, and we only scratched the surface. But our ambition here is really to kick off this dialogue and do it here at CIFF, one of the most important fashion platforms. I wanted to give each of you a chance to share a little bit of an optimism for the next a few years. What are you most optimistic about, and what are you happy about, putting into effect? Maybe start with you, Olli.
next few years, hoping that what you were saying, that we could also crack the nut with what comes to the recycled textiles as well, and hoping that we would find even more wider collaboration with all the players in industry. Just wishing that one, that and more from the brands that do have a big role there, even more open-minded discussion with all the brands that are all the companies that are providing solutions to this topic.
Good
Welcome.
stuff. Marika, what are you hopeful for in the next?
Some kind of like a joint cooperation in a textile industry, that they would take this sort of like working together and getting some kind of like a transparency, maybe with the digital tools or something, but regarding the value chains, but also that we would be able to measure that the sustainability would happen. That would also, in my opinion, encourage the companies to invest in more, and then hopefully we also had this good talk regarding these consumers, so maybe convincing also them with the data and with the stories that this is happening already.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Jarkko, parting words.
I think there is a lot of momentum to the same direction from all of these relevant parties, and I think there's true transformation happening. You only see it when it's too late and it's actually the ball is rolling, but I think we're at the beginning of that, definitely, and it's great that the snowball is starting in the Nordics and then going from there.
The snowball has started in the Nordics. That rounds up this day's transformation talks and 3 days of talks here from Scandinavian Mind here at CIFF. I'd like to thank you all for listening, and thank you Jarkko, Olli and Marika for sharing your thoughts today. Thank you. You've been listening to the Scandinavian Mind podcast with me, Konrad Olsson. Don't forget to sign up to our newsletter. Visit scandinavianmind.com/newsletter not to miss out on any of our upcoming events. And of course, buy your own copy of Scandinavian Mind issue 4. Everything online. Until next week, goodbye.